Welcome back to the Blue Collar Future Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Robison, and we've got our co-host, Jessie, with us today. Jessie, what's up?
What's up, man? Just hanging out. Beautiful day outside. Do a little Q&A with you.
Oh, dude, it's going to be a good one. Although we get a lot of the same questions. You know? That's okay. We answer similar questions over and over again, but it's
I've beat a dead horse before.
You know, I've decided beating a dead horse is best because, first of all, people need to be reminded of things. Also, not everybody sees stuff. I was just telling you before we started recording that I had a podcast for like a year and people would still tell me, man, I didn't know you had a podcast. And I'm like, I post about it like almost every day for like a year about it. And I'd still get people saying, I didn't know you have one. So, you know.
Yeah. That's Kelly did the same thing. The tile goblin. And Kelly's like one of my good blue collar friends, right? That's one of my good friends from social media. And we posted a clip or something. She goes, why didn't I know you had a podcast? And I was like, because you don't care about me. It doesn't. He's like,
yeah.
How do you not know?
Yeah. Well, it seems like people would know because we just like talk about it so much. And it's just because social media is weird. And a lot of times your followers don't even see stuff. And so that's potentially probably a year where some of my followers didn't even see that I had a podcast. And I'm like, I had a whole wind up to it. I was posting before I started it about it and, you know, saying it was coming for probably like 2 months. And then I had a whole year of recordings before somebody knew, or this one person knew. And I was like, geez, I wonder how many other people don't even know. Maybe even right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's fun. Like, if you look at the insights on I'll have, 6 million views in the last 30 days, and I can look at like what percentage of my followers is, and it's tiny. I'm like, why don't they see it? But
What's the
what do you do?
point of having so many followers if you don't ever have interactions with them, you know? That's what I've never got.
Yeah. It's just a vanity metric at this point.
Yeah. I think when you have more followers, you get more exposure, but that's just funny because that means they're showing your videos to more people as a default, but it's not even your own people, it's other people. So that's never really made sense to me. Anyways, let's get right into it today. So we've got our first question is about, what does it say? Is it worth learning blue collar work to do side work but not fully commit to it?
Yeah, and some context here. This is my brother-in-law, Connor. He's asking, so Connor has a pretty good job. He's an estimator for a company down in Salt Lake. But his elaboration was more so like he can see, there's a deficit in skilled people that know how to do things. So he's like, oh, I could fill that gap. Plus, thinking about, maybe you want to be able to do your own things around your house or like to help family, friends, stuff like that, right? You want to be handy. And in that sense, I would say, yes, it is worth, I think it's worth being able to do things with on your own still and not having to rely on, whatever. But like, just being somewhat handy so you could do your repairs around your house and things like that. And maybe of knowing how to do trades to go pick up side work and stuff. But like we discussed a little bit earlier it would be hard to become a master of a skill just doing side work. Like like you made that point. It would, you don't have the time and repetition to do it, but maybe you could still like, I don't know. I can't say that you wouldn't get good enough at it to be able to help people and do little side project and be a handyman. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would say yes to be handy around your own house and your friends and family, but I don't know about necessarily filling the deficit to go pick up jobs and do it as a professional, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I always take this from an approach of telling people, having a trade skill is super useful because you can do your own projects around your house, and then you can also market that for side work. But that's more that's more from a sense of you work in a trade for a few years and learn a skill, and then if you decide to leave, you at least have that skill still that you can market to people. That's more of like, that is a very good benefit to learning a trade because you can take that skill anywhere, and it's not going to be taken away from you. Yeah, projects around your house, little side projects for other people. as long as you had enough time doing it. Learning one from scratch on the side to do as side work, yeah, that's a little bit harder. I mean, I've done some stone projects with some guidance from you a little bit, and I would like to do stone projects on the side, but that's also not really what I do, and it's hard to.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be one of those people that just goes out and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm an expert, have 4 years experience doing," and just make up shit and lie. But
Mhm.
people don't really want to hire someone that's that new, anyways. And I feel bad marketing myself until I would get more projects under my belt or something, and that's hard to do when you're only doing little side projects and projects around your house, you know.
Mhm.
So I think you definitely could. It'd be hard though, because it
Yeah.
is, and depending on, I don't know, depending on what trade it is, there might be a smoother learning curve to it, so maybe you could pick it up a little sooner. But you wouldn't have come across enough scenarios where there's problems or variances in the project that you know how to deal with, and so every project would be like, maybe you wouldn't even be doing it correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I tell because we have the apprentices or the hotties that are like in that transition space of, and they'll want to go do side work, and I get it. Like I want everyone to go be able to get ahead and do all that sort of stuff, but I feel like I have to constantly remind some of them to like don't bite off more than you can chew. Because like I didn't go do side jobs until I knew that I could solve my own problems, and I think that's a big part of it is like do what you can handle. A lot of them will go do cut and repoint joints or like fix things and stuff like that. But then every once in a while they're like, hey, this lady needs this done at her house and it's like rebuilding this chimney. I was like, hey, don't. Like, I'm not even gonna go do that. Like, I know the paycheck in the end looks really nice, but like, don't. It's way worse than you think it is.
Yeah.
But it's just I think it's just stay within your means, I guess, in that point. Like,
Hmm.
because you could, yeah, if you were developing skills, you could market it as, hey, this is my skill level, this is what I can handle. And then like, maybe there's steps to that and just keep going forward as you go. But
Hmm.
I agree with you. It would take a lot of time if you're only doing it on the side. And like you're never going to do that with like electrical work or things like that because you have to have a journeyman car or whatever. You have to be certified to install certain things.
Yeah. Well, so let's take a step from there real quick. How long do you think it would take for someone doing it full time if they were super dedicated to be able to like handle projects that come and handle all of the variances and the problems that might arise in your trade?
Yeah, so this goes back to if you'll oblige me on a history lesson here
Mm-hmm.
or humor me.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole like journeyman, apprentice, all that sort of master mason, like all that comes from back in the day with the stonemason that was the guy who ran the job site, right? He was the project. Because he had all the skills, all the math, everything. He knew how to do everything. Back in the day as an apprentice, you would work under someone for free to get all the skills, and then you would slowly grow into the next levels to it and eventually become a journeyman. And journeyman comes from, being able to journey out on your own, right? You can go to other job sites or go work with other people and be able to handle your own problems. And then the step past that is a master mason who could do everything and have all the knowledge and skills in math. So the reason I bring that up is because I guess I agree still with that philosophy of like, if you're going to go do that sort of stuff, you should be to the point of journeying and being a journeyman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have enough experience in your trade to know like, okay, the heights aren't exactly on 8 inches if we're laying modular bricks, so I need to get up or down to get to that, and I don't need to call somebody and do all this stuff and figure that out. Like I can do that by myself, or how to lay out bond around windows and those sort of things. Those are just little things. And if you're going to ask me, by default, it's 10,000 hours to master a skill, right? Which is full time is somewhere between 3 to 5 years, I think. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But I didn't start picking up side jobs until I had been laying on the wall full time for like 3.5 years. Because that's when I was like, okay, I can go I can go build a mailbox by myself. I can go put stone on a wall by myself. I've got, I've been frustrated enough at work to figure this out. But yeah, that's my personal belief.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's pretty similar to like in our trade too. It takes quite a while to figure out how to finish concrete properly, let alone how to deal with all of the different scenarios. And the job is different every single day. The concrete sets up different every single day. It takes 3 or 4 years just to like see everything, just to
Hmm.
figure that out. And a lot of people, even after 3 or 4 years, aren't really at that level because they haven't really applied themselves that much.
Hmm.
It depends on if you're driven and stuff. And we can do all the training and teaching that we want, but some people don't pick it up because they aren't really bought in after that long. I couldn't really imagine anybody going and doing side projects doing concrete before then, unless it was like little freaking mailbox pads and AC pads
Hmm.
and like little 4x4 things, or maybe even just like little pieces of sidewalk, or mow strip like for
Yeah.
fences. I mean, that type of stuff is pretty easy. There's not really much you can mess up. If you do mess it up, it's not that big a deal. So I think size of project does come into play. But yeah, it just
Yeah.
if you just are starting from scratch with no previous knowledge, I don't think that'll work very good.
Yeah. I think no previous knowledge, you're better off watching YouTube and um, doing stuff at your house to DIY.
Yeah. Yeah. And even too, like, say you're in an industry similar. Like, I feel like concrete and masonry, like what you do, are pretty similar, and I still don't feel like I could just go out and start doing stonework just because, and marketing, taking on everything. I would trust myself to
Yeah.
try to figure out a limited amount of stone on my house, on my own house, but
Yeah.
somebody else's, I don't think I'd do that. So,
Yeah, and it's the same. Like I know how to pour a pad because I do posts and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna go do someone's whole garage floor.
yeah.
Or like I understand like the concept of how to form and pour a wall, but I'm not gonna go do it.
Yeah. Moral of the story, probably not worth learning it because it probably would take you. I mean, not that it's not worth learning. It's just not wouldn't be worth it for side jobs unless you want to
Yeah.
deal with problems left and right. When your little side projects fail after a couple years or something like that. Because it'd probably take you 10 years of doing that to actually be a master at what you're doing by just doing
Hmm.
little side projects, unless you're literally doing full time just after your full time job. You're just like always working on that stuff. And then it might be a while, but I guess it depends on how
Yeah.
driven you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, our next question: when going out on your own, how can you build relationships with builders? How do you think your dad did that when he was going out on his own because he went into a different industry essentially, because he went from residential to commercial, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing getting him about so my dad has a cool story about this. Like he did his side like he's working for my grandpa, he does a side job. My grandpa says, hey, if you take that, you're out on your own. My dad decides he's gonna do it. He goes to the house to do the side project that's now the real project because that's his job. And while he's there, so we're looking at this house on the corner. This house over here is also being built. And my dad, kind of being the smart ass he is, he needs half a truck of sand to make mortar with at this house. But he orders a full truck and he says, I want you to put half the sand here and half the sand over at that house. And so the guy's there and he's like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you dumping sand at my house? And my dad's like, oh, because I'm going to do your house too. And the guy was like, okay, you know. So my dad does the first one, goes to and the guy's like, hey, I can pay you half, and then the other half, you got to take a payment as a cruise because like his mom did or his wife at the time was like maybe in one of those MLMs that she sold cruises and stuff. So like, if you're gonna do this, you got to help her. My dad goes on a my dad goes on a cruise and he's like, it was pretty cool until about like the 4 day mark when I was like, okay, I got to go home. I got to call, I got to call back in. I got to get my job back. I don't have any, I have a kid, all this stuff. But my dad got home and he had done such a good job with these homes. And because my dad is incredible at our craft, he did such a good job that my dad said when he got home, his voicemail inbox was full from other people calling it because that guy had told so many people about my dad, about his quality of work and everything. And just that he was bold enough to like, hey, I'm doing your house. And so the lesson I've always taken from that is one, like be willing to show up, two, be willing to put yourself out there, and three, do a damn good job. Because that's the biggest thing you're going to get is referrals, right? And that comes through time and doing a good job and being who you said you were going to be.
Mm.
So if you're just starting out and trying to get a relationship with builders, I think it goes back to our first question of one, it's helpful to have been in the industry because then they're going to know who you are. So if at work you're working for someone, but they know that you're the guy that takes care of things and does a quality job even while you're working for someone else, that's going to help you out a lot. That's what I try to do personally because that's how I get a lot of referrals because I'm never going to quit my job, working in the family business.
Mm.
And then, I also have the social media presence and you do too. And so people see that and they can see like your expertise through that sort of stuff. And then another big one I would recommend is building a relationship with the supply yard. I always say that. So like at the local brickyard, I'm great friends with everyone there. Everyone there is awesome. And they are more than willing to recommend me to any homeowner or builder that comes in looking for a mason because they know that I am going to do good on their word. So that's I would say because they know everybody. So if you're going to do some things, I assume if you're going to start out on your own, you're working for someone or you have worked for someone. So do a good job while you're there. Be personable and relatable. Have conversations with the people around you. When you do show up, do a good job. Hold your word, and then have a relationship with your supply yard because those people know everybody in your industry already anyway.
Yeah, yeah, you made a couple really good points there because like your work speaks for itself, and that's why social media is so amazing. Like if you're able to on your job, I know a lot of people can't really use social media or take videos at work, but if you're able to and you start building a presence, that's huge because as soon as you
Uh-huh.
start your own thing, you have a whole social media presence of your work and people are following you because you do a good job and stuff. You won't
Hmm.
have like a full business of work, but you'll have people that will come out and they'll share your stuff and you'll get referrals and all that just based on what you can see. In social media, it's easy to pretend, but it's also hard to make up a lot of the stuff unless you're straight up just posting pictures of other people's work and claiming it as your own. Because people can tell. Like you can see people's work online and know generally whether or not they do a good job. And then if you're out there, you show up, you do what you say you're going to do, and you talk to like everybody, talk to a lot of people, make connections, you'll be able to step out on your own pretty easy. The only thing I will say is that's hard because, yeah, I'm assuming as well you're working for somebody if you're asking that question. It's hard to do that without like stealing work, and you don't really want to go
Hmm.
steal work from the person that you worked for. And I think that's why this question actually comes up because a lot of people might be like, oh, yeah, I'll just go take this contractor. I talk to them a lot. They know I'm doing work, but nobody wants to do that really. So it
Hmm.
makes it hard when all of your connections are through your employer because you can't just go and take all of their work. And most of the time, it won't happen anyways. Even if you do a good job, most of the time the relationship is built with your employer between the contractor and your employer, and so they're going to have a good relationship, and if you split off, they're just going to be like, well, good luck, see ya. But they might have little projects to throw your way or refer you to other people or something, and maybe even if you leave on a good note, your previous employer will also send people your way because that could happen too
Hmm.
because they could be too busy to take stuff on. But like I think ensuring that you're not stepping on people's toes and just ruining relationships when you leave is important. And the only way really to do that is to figure out how to make connections and build your presence like outside of your employment. So that
Hmm.
doesn't mean you have to go, be friends with all the people that supply yards. You have to go talk to all the builders around there, especially like if you're in a neighborhood and there's a lot of different builders in there. Go make connections with them, you know, let them
Mhm.
know what you're doing or what you're thinking about doing. Make relationships with people that aren't just like who you work for your employer. Because otherwise, all you're going to have is connections with people that have a commitment already, and you won't have any work that way. So, and that's always hard.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, I think, yeah, I mean, the word we're looking for is networking. Do your part, if you wanna, because those builders, go introduce yourself, shake your hand, leave a card, those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one. Back to my dad is, I know that back in the day, there's a local contractor here that used to do all the churches, and dad had the churches and the schools, and he needed something done at his house, like the CEO, right? Needed something done at his house. And my dad went to his house, did the repair or whatever, and then left. And I remember that guy was like, "Hey, you never sent me a bill." And he goes, "Oh, it's good. Don't worry about it." I think that dude turned around and my dad did tons of churches and 4 different schools and all sorts of stuff just because of that. So that's if I think that helps a lot too, is like just be a stand up person and do like those sort of things, right? I mean, it's just like I'm looking at my pile of books right here behind the camera, and I have jab, 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 right hook from Gary Vaynerchuk. Like he's the concept of that is like you're gonna throw little jabs, and then when you need to land the right hook, you do it. But you're not coming out swinging, right? So my dad goes and does it. He throws this little jab, oh, I'll just go fix that for free, whatever. But then the right hook comes in, and he does millions of dollars of contracts for this guy because he went and did this little repair. Right.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah, those sort of things help a lot too.
yeah, and where the contractor he had before probably didn't want to do it either. The guy he had doing his work originally probably was like, "Nah, go find someone else." And that would
Yeah,
be
that's too small for me.
Yeah, yeah. And that would be our knee jerk reaction if some random person came and asked us to fix a bunch of like little things at their house. Like that's not valuable to us. But that's also where building relationships comes into play because if one of our contractors that we know they have a little project like that they need done and we value our relationship with them, yeah, we're going to go do it. And a lot of times, actually, they don't get charged for it or something because if it's on their own house or if it's just a little thing, it just is what it is. And
Hmm.
we've done that quite a few times. And that's how building relationships works. You're actively cultivating this so that you are the person that they come to. So
Hmm.
I think there's a few people we have that we work for that'll probably never go find someone else because of that type of stuff that we've done.
Hmm.
And there's one big builder that we do stuff for that has had different concrete guys in the past all doing their stuff because they have multiple subdivisions of homes going in, and
Hmm.
we a couple years ago took over pretty much everything because we just did a really good job and the other guys that they've had do a really not good job and it
Hmm.
shows, and it's hard to not see the difference when we're doing a job next to theirs and we get it done, you know 100% faster, it looks better, and we're more professional and all of that stuff. Like it's really hard for someone else to come and step in and take our work when they have such a good relationship with us and we do a consistently good job for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think before we leave that one, I'd want to add too about your comment of if you work for someone, you don't want to take their work, but you should also, how you mentioned it, that you should also know that if you leave on with a good relationship and you have a good relationship with your boss, at the time, they're going to also refer you work. Because I do that all the time for guys that like the journeyman that I grew up with that no longer work for my dad, for whatever, they've gone out on their own and stuff. We can't do everything. And we do, mostly commercial large scale projects.
Yeah.
So I've myself and my dad and the family have established ourselves as, the go to person for this trade.
Hmm.
So when those things come across my dad's desk, it's like, hey, we're too busy. We have all this stuff going on, like you said. But how about you call Luke or you call Brandon or you call, so and so, or maybe it's one of my apprentices, even if it's a really small job. But it was like that's a good, reminder that you'd made of like keep that good relationship with your boss
Yep.
because that person can still feed you in that sense of like because my goal isn't necessarily to like raise the best masons that only work for me and go do this stuff. Like I want these young guys, whether it's with me or not, to be able to do like have the best life and be the best person they could be, regardless of whether it's with me or not.
Hmm.
So in my eyes, it's like, cool, I can give them work too because of my image or like what we've created here. And that's something to keep in mind. If you're working for someone and wanting to go out on your own, don't leave on a bad note because that person can feed you too.
Yep. Yeah, well, and we're super busy as well, and it's like we can't do everything, and I find myself wanting to have someone to send referrals to, and I've sent referrals a couple times, but like that's hard when you don't know that many people either. And if you don't have very many
Hmm.
connections, you can't hardly send work people's way. Like we have a bunch of connections in the world because my dad, worked for family and he has a bunch of friends that he worked with that all started their own businesses. So there's probably four or five different flat work companies around here that came from kind of the same place, but they are in the same place we are. They've got a lot of connections and a lot of work, and it's not like we
Hmm.
can send referrals to them. So it's
Hmm.
hard without, if you don't leave on a good note, you're obviously not going to get those, and we don't have people to send referrals to, but it's much easier to send referrals to someone who's worked with you for a long time and then they went out on their
Hmm.
own and it was a good thing and it wasn't like, F you, I'm leaving. I'm sick of working for you. It was like, yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think I'm going to go try my own thing because that's what I want to do with my life. I really appreciate it.
Hmm.
And that's a completely different approach. And yeah, one is breaking down relationships, one is keeping them established.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's super super important that way. I've seen way too many people that leave where they were working before and it just like goes up in flames. Talk about burning the boats and the bridges. It's just stupid in
Hmm.
this world when everything is so close. Everybody's so close around here.
Hmm.
So the only people you're really going to see happy about that are people that didn't like your previous employer or something. So it's just,
Yep.
it just doesn't work that way.
Yep. Yep. And then inevitably they call and ask for their job back, and I get to tell them no.
Speaking of
That's
which,
happened
we had
twice in the last
real,
year.
really in the last year?
Yep. Yep. I had a kid like talking smack on my dad and all this stuff, and eventually, like, he went out. He's like, "Screw it, I'm going somewhere else." And then 3 weeks later, called me. He's like, "Do you think you guys would hire me back?" I was like, "Nope, I don't think so." But what do you do? Don't burn your bridges. Take that lesson.
It is so weird that that happens. It's just the weirdest thing. Speaking of this though, we had a connection here recently that was kind of cool. So me and you ended up, or I ended up working on a job up in Logan that you took a video in front of, which was like super
Yeah.
random. Like we don't work up there around you guys, and you just happened to take a video in front of, this building that we went and poured the floor in a couple weeks later. So it was a pretty interesting coincidence. And then we actually ended up going to do at the driveway of the guy that did that job up in Logan. He lives down here. He actually lives like 5-10 minutes down the road from me, and
Hmm.
he actually worked for your family before doing brick and block. Not for very long, because the person he was working for back during when the economy went down ran out of work, so he went and worked for them
Hmm.
for you guys for, I think he said a year. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
There's a super small world that way.
Yeah. And I was talking to my mom about that. I was talking to my mom about that, and my mom was saying my dad actually tried to get him to come back to be one of the other foremen. When we were like to the point where like we had to split the two crews and all that sort of stuff, my dad tried to get Clark to come back because he is so good and so nice.
Yeah,
But Clark's like, I don't. Clark is he's like, I don't want to do the work that you guys do, like that big job and all the headache. He goes, I don't want to do. He goes, I just want to do small project like that one. He's like, I'm good. That's bread and butter. And so he's like the perfect referral because you're like, that dude's nice as can be. He's professional and he's really, really freaking good at his job. So
yeah.
he's the perfect referral.
Yeah, yeah. He was telling me that it was, you guys had done a lot of projects. He was telling me the same thing. Like he just doesn't really like that commercial world. He just, the headaches and them expecting you to catch projects up and stuff. Like even when they're behind. So
Hmm.
he's in the residential world, and then he does little projects like that. So the little commercial ones. I just thought that was super interesting because it's such a small world. And then he has a good relationship with you guys, or at least he did. When he came and worked for you and then left, it wasn't anything like bad, It was just, yeah, I gotta go do something else here, and yeah, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what it's like. You build connections, and you never know what the connections in your industry, like in industry, could turn out for you. So as far as
Hmm.
referrals go and stuff. So anyways, I think we got that one pretty good. Let's move on to the next one. Work trucks. Let's talk work trucks a minute. This person says, I can't seem to catch any luck on mine. What is yours and why?
Thanks to Rowdy at Two Hounds Building for this one. I like that it was something different than what we normally get asked. So I currently drive a 2019 F350. I love that thing because being 6'5", 6'6", I have a lot of room in the truck. Plus, it's awesome for it does great pulling. It does great everything that I need it to do for work, and it's really comfortable for me outside of work because that's also my personal truck. That being said, before that, I had a Ram with the Hemi in it. The transmission went out really quick, so I don't love that. But I know some people love Ram or that sort of stuff. And then before that, I had a 2015 Duramax that I drove for 250,000 miles, and I loved that thing. That truck was all like that's probably my favorite truck I've owned. That and my F350 are pretty close, but that one handled really well, and I just really liked it. The only thing with that was I had a fuel filter, or yeah, not a fuel filter.
Fuel pump or something?
The fuel pump and the DEF system both went out at about the same
Eesh.
time. So it ended up cost me like 16 grand because I didn't catch it. And when I took it to the shop, they just replaced the fuel filter. So I ended up pushing metal through the system.
Eesh.
And so that was kind of a bummer, but that's not the truck's fault, right? So, but yeah, I personally, I love my Duramax and I love my 50. I'll probably buy another F50 to be honest, just because of the creature comforts. I think
Mm-hmm.
Ford does a really good job inside the cab and with the space that I feel like I need being as tall as I am. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have a Chevy, right?
Yeah. So I actually drove, we have a 2015 Duramax as well, and we've had that for, oh, we've had that since like probably 2017, I think. And it's been great. It's had stupid little problems here and there, like the DEF systems just on most of the trucks nowadays are just crap. And we kept having the DEF heater or some crap, some stupid thing in the DEF system kept going out, and we actually deleted that just because it's, yeah, whatever. We didn't do that for blowing
Yeah.
smoke and stuff like a lot of people do. It just was because it was having issues. It other than that, it has had like no problems. I mean, it's been running great. It has just keep up on our maintenance, and it's good. It's a 12-foot flatbed with a dually. It is we
Big
have
old girl.
we have two flatbeds, and before that, so my dad got that back in 2017. He drove that for probably until about 2.5 years ago, and then he bought a 2024 or a 2023 Chevy,
Hmm.
and with a 10-foot flatbed, and it's a dually as well. And that one, newer trucks seem to have problems. So that one had like a little thing go out in the transmission essentially, and everybody else's was having that at the same time. So his truck was down for like 4 months. So it's really kind of hard to be happy about new trucks. Aside from that, it's
Yeah.
freaking awesome. Aside from that, it can pull. It's supposed to be able to pull 37,000 pounds. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
lot of weight.
wild.
Yeah, and it pulls tractors like they're not there, but
That's awesome.
it's all of these trucks. I think all of the trucks nowadays either have issues or don't, and they're all just kind of random, you know? It's like if you keep up
Hmm.
on the maintenance, you probably won't have issues, but you might because they just have all of these stupid electronics in them and all of these little things that just have stupid little problems. And I don't think you can get away from that. I think if
Yeah.
you're trying to find a truck, if you find a used truck that's got, 30, 40,000 miles on it, almost no matter what you get, it'll be probably fine. We had, so I started driving, the first truck I got was a dually with a
Hmm.
flatbed, and it was a Ram 5500, and it was like an '09, I think. And we bought it with 220,000 miles on it, and I put probably 30 or 40 on it, and it was whatever. I mean, it was all right. The transmission was kind of slipping, having some problems, but other than that, it was a pretty good running truck. and then I switched driving that 2015 when he got a new one, and then I actually just got a little half ton. So I drive a
Mm.
2023 Chevy 1500 with the little 2-liter turbo, and it's honestly freaking awesome. It's like most trucks you find nowadays, as long as they look like they've been taken care of, will be fine. I think the problem is they're also expensive, so it's hard to find
Yeah.
something that's not going to just like break the bank. And I don't know what this person's having problems with it exactly, but that is common for people to try to like buy an old cheap truck and then have issues with it. I don't know. We like our Chevys. We've had some Fords that don't run very good, but they all nowadays do. So me and my in-laws have a 2017 50, and they love it. It's not giving them
Mm.
any issues. So I don't know.
Yeah. And where I live, you can't, because the emissions, like in the valley, we get bad inversions. Anything over 6 years old, you have to get tested, or else I
Yeah.
would delete mine as well because the DEF system is just ass. But, maybe that'll go out the window here in the next couple of years. We'll see.
Supposedly it might.
Supposedly. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really liked my Duramax and my F-350 personally. I did not appreciate the Ram at all, but maybe that's because I bought a gas Ram with a Hemi in it.
They're not known
You
for
never know.
being reliable. Those ones, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's all just personal preference. Like I said, I appreciate the creature comforts of the Ford.
Yeah.
Part of me, I will say, part of me really wants to buy the all-electric Denali just because I know it would make everyone on the internet mad. Like, if I could get an electric truck that could pull the gooseneck, I so would do it.
Yeah.
Uh, the smart choice would be to stay with the diesel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if you're looking for trucks, you can get a diesel that's a little higher in miles. If you get a gas truck, you probably want to find one that's pretty low in miles. And then I would research anything you look for and see if it has a lot of problems or not. So for example, this is an easy one, but the Ford 60, almost nobody likes it. People like it
Yeah.
because it's cheap to buy, and you can make them fairly reliable now with some work. But when they came out, they were just freaking trash. And that's the last Ford that we had, was a 60, and it
Hmm.
it cost like, it broke down like 3 or 4 different times. So we've been in this same boat where it's like you can't seem to catch luck on it. So when the economy went down,
Hmm.
my dad sold what he had, and he had a '07 dually Duramax that was like brand new, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna cut back on some expenses and save some money, and I'm gonna go buy this Ford, this F350 that was just
Hmm.
cheaper." And yeah, that ended up costing him about as much as it would have to pay the other truck off in fixing it over like the 2 years that he had it. So, and it had like low miles on it too. It had less than 100,000 miles, and it just issue after
It
issue
just
after issue.
jealous.
It's just, you just got to buy a truck that doesn't seem to have a lot of problems widely, which I think nowadays most of them are okay. I think gas
Hmm.
trucks are kind of weird that way, because I think a lot of them, they're, they're not really that heavy duty. So if you find someone that's been using it for work, or they just haven't been taking care of it, they're much more likely to have problems than diesels are. But they're also cheaper. So
Yeah, it depends
buying a
what you're.
low mile, yeah, what you're looking for. I think everybody has
Yeah.
that though. Everybody has little issues here and there, and maybe it's just luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
from personal experience, having an extended warranty, maybe not from the dealership itself, but like a private party one you can go buy, has really I'm glad that I have one. Like I've used it
Really?
on both the Duramax, the Ram, and the F-350, all three of them. So like the Ram, for instance, the transmission went out at 28,000 miles. Big surprise. That was under the warranty, thank God. My F-350, I've done some just little things, so not as bad, but they've been covered in the warranty, and the Duramax with the fuel pump and all that stuff was covered. So yeah, if you're gonna go buy a truck that's a work truck that you're gonna put it's going to handle a lot of stress. The warranty might be a good idea. Just, I don't like the one from the dealership because I feel like
Yeah.
that's a scam because they're just trying to make commission on it. But that's
Did
personal.
you buy all of yours new?
No, gosh, both my Duramax and my Ford had like 75 to 80,000 on them when I got them. And the Ram is the lowest mile thing I've ever
Probably
bought,
good
and
to
it
know.
had. Here you go.
I'm not sure I would buy a gas truck with that many miles, but diesel, that's probably fine. Somewhere up close to 100. Gas trucks stay lower, like in the 20, 30,000 range, just
Hmm.
because they're not as heavy duty, I think.
Hmm.
And you can more likely stay on top of maintenance and the wear and tear if you have it with lower miles. But they just won't last as long anyways. So I think it just depends on what you're doing. So that's cool. Yeah. So we have one more question, and it's kind of interesting. Maybe people that are always curious about other trades will like to hear this one. So, is there a pattern you have to follow with bricks when they are different colors?
Yeah, that all depends what's spec'd out. So I do believe this question comes from in regards to our job up there at the Institute of Religion. And the Institute of Religion has 3 different colors blended into it. There's a light, a medium, and a dark. So they wanted a random blend. So what we had happen was they would just mix, they'd take 3 cubes of brick, the light, medium, and dark, and they would just mix them at the yard and then band them up and send them to us so we could lay them as they were. But like our big thing in that case was we didn't want more than 3 of the same color touching, or else it would make, like, when it comes to a blend like that, you don't want something that draws the eye, right? It's you want someone to be able to look at the wall and not have a focal point necessarily. So like if you had a big dark spot, they're going to look right at it, right? So that's kind of the idea there. It's just a big random thing, but there will also be jobs where they call out like, "Hey, I want this pattern in the wall," and so you got to do it. So like, it'll be stripes or like insets or things like that of like colors or patterns or textures, things like that. And so it just kind of depends on what's spec'd out, and that goes for things like bond as well, because you'll have half bond or cover four, things like that, and it'll be spec'd out differently. Or certain bricks, they bond out better over certain sizes. Like some of them, like a 12 and a 4 blends way better than, and then like modular is an 8 and a 4 is half. So it's just easier to lay that way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I heard the other day Steven was saying to me because I stopped by your guys' job and he was saying you just don't want things to draw the eye. So that was
Hmm.
an interesting thing that's probably a lot easier said than done because it's probably a lot easier to just to be like, oh yeah, well you don't want anything to be a focal point. So, but that takes actually paying attention to what you're doing, and you don't want to get too far into laying stuff and then realize, oh wait, this is like this big old spot where there's like 4 or 5 brick that are the same color
Hmm.
all standing out, or like with a stone, if you have too many that are like the same thing basically that are just right there and they stand out a ton. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's like,
Well, and
because you
so
visited us on that stone
with
job.
brick, it's with we've got a little delay here, so it's kind of weird.
Go ahead, buddy. You're good.
So like with brick, it's easier because you have all the same shape, and you just lay them like what you'd probably have 50% layovers or whatever, and
Hmm.
you're running them all in a course um, horizontally. But with
Hmm.
stone, you guys were saying that you can't have, or you don't want to have just a full course of stone running horizontally, and then there's rules on like vertical, like you can't have more than the tallest stone of vertical joint. So it's probably a little
Hmm.
bit different with laying stone like that. But with brick, seemingly a little bit easier to make sure that they're not in the same spot. So they're just not too many
Yeah.
the same color.
Yeah, and that's like even with a blended cube of brick, you'll get in a part of like it just happens that that tong came up and there's like 6 brown ones in a row. So you do gotta pay attention. Be like, oh, I've laid way too many of those. And then stone, yeah, is the same thing. It's just masonry mass. You want someone to be able to look at a wall and see that there's masonry on it. You don't want them to like look and see your bed joints, which are your horizontals or your verticals. And then the vertical thing is for a strength issue, because if you have a long running vertical joint, if the wall cracks, it's going all the way down it versus if it's stepped in and stuff. It's just, there's 2 things. It's both optical and structural, to a sense, structural in the sense of strength. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just, you're trying
structural
not, like
for
you
a
said, you're trying
veneer,
not to
but
create focal points.
hmm it's interesting because like with real masonry, like from the past, that was definitely a thing, but nowadays people get away with the whole vertical joint thing because veneers just don't really matter that much. I mean, I'm sure it will still
Mm,
cause an issue, but not
mhm,
like it used to be, because you wouldn't look at like stones tumbling and falling into line on top of each other and you wouldn't see like a big gap of them.
mhm.
That's obviously not structurally sound. They wouldn't fall into place naturally like that and hold. So I mean, I guess that's a way to think about it.
Yeah, and that's with stone, it's you're trying to recreate a natural look. So, like you said, if stone were to fall down a wall, they're not going to fall into this perfect little uniform pattern. They're going to fall a certain way. So, back in the day, the head joints were for structural, and nowadays, where it's veneer, it's just so like if the wall settles, it doesn't crack that way. And then that's the same reason why we say don't lay vertical stone, right? Because in nature, like a vertical stone is very weak, it's going to fall over. So, you wouldn't see that in nature. But yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. A little bit of masonry specifics and technicalities there. People probably will like to hear. So I think we covered all of them pretty good. I guess, is there anything else you want to add to any of those?
I think we did good.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you got anything out of this, subscribe. It really helps. Leave a rating and review. Share it with a fellow tradesman or someone who wants to get into the trades who you think will get value. Watch out for our stories. That's where we catch the questions. Jesse gets most of our questions from his stories, so most people getting them from there. And join our channel on Instagram as well.